Today, we're turning our attention to the millions of family caregivers here in New Jersey and across the country. The sons, daughters, spouses, friends, and neighbors who step up every day to care for loved ones. It is a role filled with compassion, but also with many challenges, emotional and financial, and often physical. And joining us this morning is Crystal McDonald, Senior Associate State Director of Advocacy with AARP New Jersey, to talk about what family caregivers need and why their work matters so much, and how policymakers can better support them. Good morning, Crystal. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Ken. Thanks for having me on this morning.
You bet. And who are we talking about when we say family caregivers, and what does that term really mean in practice?
Well, you said it when you opened up this morning. They are family, friends, neighbors. They're people who step up to care for a loved one when they need help. So if you think about the people that are in your life, most of us know someone who is helping to care for an aging parent or is preparing to, or they're caring for a child with a disability or chronic disease. And they're doing lots of things. They're helping with medication management, bathing, meals, transportation, medical appointments, all the way to more medical kinds of care like injections and wound care. And it's a labor of love, right? We do this because we care for our loved ones, but it takes more than love to care for a loved one. And we know that it's messy and complicated and it's time consuming and it's really expensive. Um, we know on average that caregivers are spending about $7,200 out of their own pockets to care for a loved one, often going into more debt, using up their own personal savings. And then they're trying to figure out how to balance work because they're doing unpaid care that's often more than 20 hours a week, plus working full time jobs because you still got to pay the bills in between all of that. And so, you know, they are the backbone of our society. And actually, AARP has a new report we're releasing later today, 9 o'clock, actually, not too far away, U.S. Caregiving in the United States and across the states. So we'll have some more state-specific data that we'll be sharing and folks can take a look at.
Yeah, I'm living through this myself right now, so that's why these segments from AARP, I'm a member of AARP for many years, and I pay very close attention to this. I have a 95, soon to be 95-year-old dad with dementia and an 87-year-old mom, and I'm watching her trying to take care of him. We try to bring in help, and then my brother and me. So I am with you 100%, and I know exactly what you're talking about here. Caregiving is very rewarding, but it's so demanding. It takes a lot of hours, and so
Absolutely.
it is so
Yeah, they're
important,
lucky
I
to
think,
have
for
you.
policy. Well, I'm lucky to have them. I mean, they
Yes,
gave
that's
me
true.
a wonderful life. So that's why it's a quid pro quo in terms of love. We love each other very much. Talk about
Mhm.
how important it is, though, for policymakers to recognize the support and support rather the work that family caregivers do. Because a lot of people just think, oh, it's family, you're supposed to do that. But as you mentioned, it's all consuming.
Right. And I said this before, it takes more than love to care for a loved one. And they're lucky to have you. We're lucky to have them. But you know who's really lucky is the state. And so, although caregivers have been around, as long as people have been around, they've already been shouldering the burden of what it means to care for someone. But there are two things that are changing that make it everybody's responsibility. One is that in the next 10 years, less than 10 years now, 9 years, we are going to have more people over the age of 65 than we do school age children for the first time in our country's history. And what that means is that we are going to have more people who need caregiving than we do physical bodies, just like sheer volume of the number of people who will be in the caregiving age range. The second is that we have a shortage of long term care workers. It's hard work even when it's paid. And unfortunately, it hasn't been kind of a career that's been developed well. And so we are facing this growing need for caregivers and the shortage. And we know right now that we have well over 1 million caregivers in the state of New Jersey, and their care, their unpaid care, is valued at over $17 billion. That's a lot of money, and especially at a time when we're looking at our state budgets and how to manage the growing needs that we have. To put it in perspective, our state's Medicaid budget is a give or take $24 billion. And that pays for a large portion of long term care. In New Jersey and across the country. And so we have to figure out how to provide the resources caregivers need so they can continue doing that job. We can't afford to lose any caregivers, and we need to
No.
figure out how to manage, the dollars so that we're investing in them in the future. If that's not enough, 1 in 5 voters are caregivers. That's a lot of people, and they overwhelmingly, across partisan lines, support candidates who work to encourage and provide better caregiving policies.
Yeah, it's just a fact that anyone who has a parent and you still talk to your parents and love your parents, everyone has a parent. You're going to be in this circumstance, and then you have to look ahead for yourself. You have to always make
Absolutely.
sure you're planning ahead. So that's
You know
important
that
too. Talk about,
the
yeah, go ahead,
mhm.
please.
I was just gonna say the number one personal call that I get from colleagues is, I saved for my retirement, but I didn't save for mom's. And how am I supposed to make this work? We want to do the caregiving work, right? But we do have to figure out, how do we go to work? How do we provide for childcare too? A lot of caregivers are sandwich generation caregivers. And so I really do. This is one thing that when we talk to policymakers and we talk to people on the street, when our members call, that everybody seems to have a personal story of how they're struggling with this.
And it's universal. And I'm 58, so now I'm that age. So I talk to all my friends, any friends from low 50s to mid 60s. They're all going through this right now. And you just,
Mhm.
when you're 20 and 30, you just don't even think about it. Not even part of your thought process. You get to
Well,
this
you'd be
age, and
surprised.
then
You should
it's
take a look at
reality.
our data later today because caregiving is hitting across all ages. And so we
Good.
feel it, I think, hear about it often as our parents are aging, but we've got caregivers of children with disabilities, young people caring for young
Hmm.
parents, so
That's
I
good.
wish I could post
I'm
it
glad.
now, but take a look later.
That's refreshing that it's younger people that it's in the mind. And I think, when we come from the old country in the old days, and it's also different families from different countries where you have the multi-generation in the house. I had that. And then you
Hmm.
have like I had friends who that wasn't the case. And I think when
Right.
you have the multi-generation, then taking care of the parent or the grandparent is more expected, right? But then when you have the
Mhm.
people who are 18, I was out of the house. I don't talk to my parents about it. That's sort of different, but it's essential. But we all know those people, right? We all know people on both sides. What does it take though? How important is it, Crystal, for lawmakers? Now we talked about the lawmakers across party lines. What can they do with policy and workplace protections, et cetera, to provide better access to resources?
Well, the good news is that we have a law that's already made it through, or a bill rather, that's made it through the Assembly that is right now in the Senate. And they have the opportunity to provide better job protections for family caregivers. So, one thing that's great about New Jersey is that we have a New Jersey Family Leave Insurance Program. And this program allows workers to apply who are caregiving for someone who has
Right.
a serious illness or condition, and right now, everyone pays into that program, but not everybody
And I
has
don't mean
job. Oh,
I don't mean to cut you off, Crystal, because we're down to the
sure.
last 30 seconds and we have to
Oh,
wrap it.
sorry.
But thank you.
I could
No,
talk
no, no,
all
it's not
day.
your fault. My
But
fault. My fault.
we
But this is key, and we're at the end of the show. So I just want to make sure to tell everybody as we look ahead to the election season, it's important for caregivers and all New Jerseyans to make their voices heard. For more info on when, where, and how to vote, please visit aarp.org/NJ Votes. Crystal McDonald, you are the Senior Associate State Director of Advocacy with AARP New Jersey. We're going to have you back on. Too important
all
a
right,
topic,
great.
and
Thanks so
we
much, Ken.
appreciate you. And everything you said was amazing. Thanks for being on today.